we're going to talk about today is how to be an applications DBA. What is an applications DBA really? The biggest difference between an applications DBA and a standard DBA is that in an applications DBA role, you have additional responsibilities and requirements to keep an ERP system active and monitoring. So what does all that really mean? So in a standard DBA role, your primary responsibilities are uptime, performance tuning, and backup and recovery strategies. As an applications DBA, you add on to those responsibilities by monitoring, patching, and configuring ERP systems, be it either an SAP, an Oracle, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, or Siebel environment. For today's lecture, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some of the key tools that you would use if you were an Oracle Applications DBA. And those tools that we're going to look at today are tools called autoconfig, then we're going to look at a process called cloning, and then we're going to take a look at the Oracle Application Manager tool. So what is autoconfig? Autoconfig is a tool that was brought on to help reduce and manage the complexity and the time-consuming process of configuring and making changes to your system. Be it you're changing a port or you're moving your file system from server A to server B. So what we did is we introduced a centralized XML-based repository where a context file, which is basically the repository, stores all the configuration information that you would need. And what this does is it helps reduce the complexity and activities when you're upgrading your technology stack or you're managing your technology stack or even starting and stopping application services. Autoconfig is now a standard requirement when it comes to Release 12 and going forward when we get to Oracle Fusion. It is backwards compatible and has been prevalent in Oracle's Applications 11i. If you're on a prior release of 11i down to say release 11 or 10.7, autoconfig is not available. So what are we really doing what are we really trying to solve with autoconfig? One of the biggest things that we're trying to solve with autoconfig is the configuration complexity of an Oracle Applications environment. Because what you're doing is you're trying to keep track of locations of file systems, ports, and how the overall configuration of your system is configured. By using this XML-based repository, it allows you to keep those configurations in a single location. The next area that we're going to talk about is actually the biggest area for an applications DBA in terms of the amount of time that it consumes, and that's cloning. In the past, when we talk about cloning, what we're talking about is we're cloning an exact replica, say, of a production environment. This would include both the middle tier and the database tier architectures. So what Oracle has come up with is a couple of processes that allow you to do this type of cloning activity in the effort to help reduce the amount of time that a company and a DBA spends on providing these cloned environments. There are various types of clones that one should consider. First, why would you do it? So one reason you would do it is you would clone your production environment to create a patching environment so that any patches or any change activities that go on in that database or in your application environment can be tested before you put it to production. That type of clone would typically be a simple clone. You might want to move up to a more complex clone where you would want to break out the architecture of your environment. Say you're a single-tiered architecture where everything is stored in one physical box and your business is growing as such that you need to break out the middle tier and the database into two separate boxes. By using a clone of a complex clone, if you will, what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to break out and understand that architecture in a non-production environment before you actually cut over to that new architecture in a production environment. The other thing that cloning does is it allows you to take spot points in time of what your application system looked like. This is similar to a backup, but in this case you're not only backing up the data files, you're actually backing up the entire application environment. One of the other things to note about an Oracle application environment when it comes to cloning is that we never change the source configuration when we're looking at the clone. We basically clone from the source to a target or to an image. Now, how do we do this? What are the two mechanisms that Oracle has provided for companies in cloning? The first is called Rapid Clone. And Rapid Clone was developed in 11i, and what it does is it is a Perl-based script system that allows you to clone your application and your database tiers and then copy those over to a source or to a target system and then reconfigure it so that that target system is now an exact replica of the environment. It also allows you to save that configuration, say you want to look at what your environment looked at 6 months ago. The next way, which is the newer way and something that will become more critical for application DBAs in the future, is cloning through the Enterprise Manager tool. By cloning through the Enterprise Manager tool, there are more options and it's more robust, and it gives the DBA the opportunity to do more complex cloning mechanisms than Rapid Clone. Starting in Release 12 and going forward into Oracle Fusion, the cloning through the EM tool, the Enterprise Manager tool, is the preferred method. However, Rapid Clone does still work with R12. How does this work? Well, what Oracle has done is we have provided an additional plugin to the Enterprise Manager tool. These plugins can also work with various other vendors like Siebel and PeopleSoft. Not so much in the cloning aspect, but there are additional plugins for those vendors in the Enterprise Manager. So what are some of the benefits over Rapid Clone? First, you're provided a graphical interface as opposed to doing it on a command line. This helps junior DBAs who are less familiar with command line script to be able to clone systems. This streamlines out the time consumption by putting it with less experienced DBAs and allowing them to do the cloning. EM also allows you to do scheduling so that you can schedule the time when you want to bring down your production and actually run it in an overnight setting where the system can come down safely, and then you can create your image or do your source to target cloning at that particular time. The other thing that EM provides is that now what you can do is you can store your copies of the clone by using EM, and then you can refer back to it, so you can do a copy as of a previous clone. I've talked about types of clones, so let's talk in a little bit more in depth what types of cloning there is. First, there is a source to target, where you're going to do simply, you're going to copy your information from the source image to the target image. This is what Rapid Clone does. The other thing that Rapid Clone does that EM can do is source to image, where you want to do a clone but not necessarily configure a target at that particular moment. The EM also then allows you to take that image and then copy it to a target. And then finally there is a simple clone, which is a source to target, and it's basically a very fast and streamlined process to be able to do it. So if you need a rapid clone right away, you would use a simple clone source to target. Those are the types of clone opportunities that you have now in Enterprise Manager. The next area that we should talk about, because it is an up-and-coming tool, and as Oracle moves through the R12 phase and into Oracle Fusion, it will become more and more critical to an application's DBA. And that is the Oracle Application Manager. The Oracle Application Manager is essentially a GUI-based or a UI-based tool that is available from 11.5.8 going forward, but it is more prevalent in R12. One of the key aspects that the Oracle Application Manager provides is it allows you to configure and administer your particular servers. So you can take a look at your forms listener, your web server, for example, and you can administer those after you've configured them. The other thing that OAM provides is it allows you to monitor and manage your concurrent request and understand your concurrent request workload, so that you can schedule your concurrent request over the 24-hour cycle, so one particular moment in time your system is not overloaded with the amount of concurrent requests coming from the users. The other thing that OAM provides is the ability to monitor. It monitors key performances and metrics related to online batching, and workflow processing. This allows the administrator, the application DBA, to provide alerts to themselves and to their staff to be able to manage the system during heavy workloads. The final area that OAM has provided to an applications DBA is probably the most handy and would probably be the most useful going forward, and that's when it comes to patching. Patching an application environment, be it Oracle, SAP, or PeopleSoft, this is where an applications DBA spends most of their time, because you have to understand that when you introduce a change into a system, you are introducing a potential risk. So you need to be able to do some sort of analysis on any particular change that you're going to introduce into your environment. The patch wizard that is provided in the OAM tool allows Oracle to do the work for you. In some respects, this greatly reduces the ability of an applications DBA on spending the great amount of time to understand any prereqs or additional changes that might occur. The patch wizard is going to take a look at version control, prereqs, and provide that information to the applications DBA so that when they get ready to do a patching situation, that they are more informed about what type of changes are going to occur in their system. The wizard can analyze single patches or multiple patches at the same time, and then in the case of the multiple patches, if the customer or the applications DBA requires it, it can merge those patches into a single environment or a single patch. So in conclusion, what we looked at are three key tools that Oracle provides an applications DBA to help them manage their time and manage the system more efficiently. We looked at AutoConfig, which really helps you manage the configuration of your environment and allows you to start and stop services so that when a change occurs, you know that your system is configured properly. We took a look at cloning specifically. We looked at the Enterprise Manager plugin tool that allows you to have more flexibility in your cloning. And the final area that we looked at is the Oracle Applications Manager, which allows you to administer, configure, monitor, and then analyze patching or change activity in your system.